All right, for weeks, months even, Israel has been under pressure over starvation in Gaza, civilian deaths in Gaza, and indiscriminate bombings in Gaza. But tonight, Israel may be on the verge of a full takeover of Gaza. Just hours from now, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is said to be ordering a full conquest of the Strip after talks with Hamas broke down. A source tells CNN the IDF objects to the move, but Israeli media cites senior officials close to Netanyahu saying if the IDF chief of staff does not agree, he should resign. Joining us at our fifth seat at the table is Peter Beiner, author of Being Jewish After the Destruction of Gaza. So full occupation, Peter, what would that do? What would that change?
I hope, but I also think this is a bluff. The Israeli people do not want this. I think what Netanyahu is trying to do is trying to bluff and hope that that will provide the ceasefire on terms that he wants. Because a full conquest of Gaza would be an utter catastrophe, a catastrophe for the Palestinians of Gaza who are already suffering immensely. And it would not save any hostages. It would actually put them in greater peril. And it would not destroy Hamas. Israel has been promising that it would destroy Hamas since October of 2023, and Hamas is still there. So this would be a catastrophe, but I suspect it won't happen, thank God.
Brooke, would it?
Well, look, whether it happens or not, frankly, the truth is Israel should have never left Gaza, because before 2005, we did not have a terrorist state. We had a booming economy. We had equality for the sexes. We didn't have gays being thrown off rooftops. But when Israel dragged every last man, woman, and child out of Gaza and exhumed the dead bodies because they knew what Hamas would do with it, we had a terror state, and that's a big mistake, and the world is yet to admit that. And the real question is, why is the world preventing Gazans from leaving Gaza? Why are they insisting that they remain as human hostages for Hamas and as civilian human shields? And the third point really is, are they refugees or are they not refugees? Because if Gazans are Palestinian refugees, then Gaza is not their home, and they should be relocated so that they are not used by Hamas as human shields. If Gaza is their home, then the entire premise upon which the whole Israeli-Palestinian conflict is based and the right of return is false. The only people being deliberately starved in Gaza are the hostages right now. You look at Avitar David. He looks like a concentration camp survivor who was forced to dig his own grave. When the body of Eden Yerushalmi, after she was murdered, was returned, she was 70 pounds. Contrast that to the pictures, these, I'll say, artistic pictures of children, most of them with diseases.
And also, really, Brooke?
Yes, really.
I mean,
yes,
really, you're
propaganda
saying
pictures of these children. You never see pictures of adults. And famine is not selective, Peter. You can't have a child who's starving and then the mother is
Brooke, are we really,
overweight or the brother is fully fed.
The picture of Avitar David was horrifying. Are we really debating whether people are starving in Gaza?
No, we're debating who is responsible. No, but because
it sounds like you're saying that these are made-up pictures.
Who is responsible
for
any food shortages
Okay, so let's
in Gaza.
Acknowledge that there are people starving in Gaza.
Is Hamas responsible?
Why don't you? I think you should let me finish,
because you spoke the way that you let me finish last time. Does Hamas steal the food and use it as a food weapon?
You just spoke for a long time. Let me just say something.
Does Hamas steal food?
The Palestinians in Gaza are indeed refugees. It's true. They are the descendants, most of them, of families that were expelled from Israel in 1948. So if Gaza is not habitable for them, because Israel has destroyed most of the schools, most of the churches, most of the mosques, most of the bakeries, most of the agriculture, most of the universities, then they should be allowed to return to the places from which they're from, which is not Burundi or Somalia or Rwanda. It's Israel. Right? If you want to give them a place to go out of Gaza, allow them to go back to the places from which their families were expelled.
I think you have a problem with cause and effect. You like to blame Israel for everything. Israel did not destroy their hospitals, destroy their schools.
No.
The schools and the hospitals that I've been to have been used as places for rocket depots, and most of those hospitals are used as Hamas for their headquarters. Hamas is responsible. When you have your headquarters under a hospital and you shoot rockets into a civilian
Where is Israel's
population,
military headquarters located?
And you shoot...
I have a question. Where is Israel, the Kiryat? Where is Israel's military locators headquarters? Is it in a remote area?
Israel has military
No,
headquarters
answer the question.
everywhere.
Where is
legitimate
Israel?
Targets.
No.
Are they
Brooke, you didn't answer my question. Where is Israel's military?
It
is in downtown Tel Aviv. So let me say that again.
They have
Israel's
headquarters in Tel Aviv.
You got to let me finish. Israel's military headquarters is in downtown Tel Aviv. Right? Many of the apartment buildings in Tel Aviv house Israeli generals. Under international law, you don't have the right to destroy the schools around Israel's military headquarters or to
Israel
destroy.
Does
no, let me
not
finish.
Shoot rockets from downtown Tel Aviv into civilian populations.
Israel has its military infrastructure deeply embedded within the civilian infrastructure as well. And in international law, it would be a war crime to destroy a hospital or an apartment building in Tel Aviv because an Israeli general is there. Similarly, it is a violation of international law to destroy a hospital or university or school in Gaza just because you believe that there are Hamas.
It is a violation of international law to use civilians as human shields. Can we agree on that?
Yes, and
do you support the temporary relocation of Gazans so that they're not used as human?
No, God forbid I do not. I don't want Palestinians expelled again. The Palestinians were expelled in 1948. You want to expel them again?
No.
That's a war crime, bro.
That's not what I said.
Hang on one sec.
Temporary? You think Israel's going to allow them back if they leave? Come on.
All right. I want to bring others into this discussion if you want to be part of this discussion. But the question at hand is, given where things are now, this stalemate, would things be better if Israel took over Gaza, complete occupation?
No, I actually think I think this issue is more nuanced than people give it credit for. And a lot of times we debate this issue on X or on Twitter. And you just saw these two individuals who are dug in, who believe with all their heart and all their might their particular points. And people try to debate this on Fox News or they try to debate it on X, and they miss it in totality. For example, Democrats, what I would go with is Democrats have to be able to say that, it's very difficult for Israel, and I'm a very pro-Israel Democrat, for Democrats to be able to simply say that Bibi Netanyahu, yes, he's an impediment to peace, but you also cannot negotiate with Hamas, who doesn't believe you have a right to exist. Occupation is something that we can't stand for. Starving Gazans are something that we cannot stand for. However, we have to be able to say that we need to bring every hostage home. It shouldn't be that difficult.
It's not that hard.
For us to have this debate.
We're losing our humanity. There's a lot that Brooke said there. I don't have time to challenge it. I'm also not a Middle East relations guy. This is not going to be Ben Affleck and Sam Steen on Real Time with Bill Maher arguing about that years ago. Look, at the end of the day, I've been working with Project Unite Humanity, projectuh.org. They're helping with the relief efforts. My friend Dr. Robert Lowry, who went to the great school of Rutgers University here. This is something that's very personal to me. As I was telling you off air, that my niece is Palestinian that lives out in Colorado. But that doesn't absolve the fact that October 7th was horrific. That doesn't absolve the fact of what happened in those kibbutzes. That doesn't absolve the fact of that video that came out today of that person that looked like he was about 68 pounds or so. Correct. Walking through those tunnels, as well as the Palestinian children that look exactly like that human being. You should have the same level of ire for who's causing both. I know that Hamas is a terrorist organization, and how they came into power in 2007 and took over in that region, even though they were duly elected at first. I know all of that. The West has already admitted that Hamas is a terrorist organization. If we're admitting that we can't negotiate with terrorists, we can't expect the terrorists to be on the up and up. It's Israel that has to do this. And there's only one common denominator in these last 38 years in that entire region. His name is Benjamin Netanyahu. He's the one common denominator in all of this. He's from the PLA to every...
The only thing I would disagree with you on is the fact that is the only common denominator. Because, yes, you can't diminish the fact that Hamas does not believe Israel has a right to exist. And if we're going to sit here and have this conversation, we have to acknowledge that Israel does have a right to exist.
But they only exist.
And my only point is, I hear you.
They exist. We know that.
And I hear you.
You know
and all I'm saying is that, I feel, for me, someone who simply says that Israel has the right to exist, and I believe Israel being an American value, but to watch those pictures of Palestinian children starving, it bothers me. Right, to my core, and I can't empathize with these two.
I can't because
hang on. Can I just put Can I put a bow on this real quick? And all I'm saying is that there is a space for all of us to simply say that we want this to come to a peaceful resolution where there should not be a decision between inhumanity and cruelty.
Correct.
And I should be able to say that Benjamin Netanyahu is an impediment to peace, and I should also be able to say that Hamas can go to hell. I should be able to say both of those.
Yeah, but I
So
think
hang
that's
on, Brooke. I'm going to talk. So I will say this. President Trump has said that he sees starvation in Gaza and it bothers him. He says that the First Lady Melania Trump sees starvation in Gaza and it bothers him. And the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, says he sees starvation in Gaza and it bothers him. If that's the baseline here, then what do you do? And I go back to the question, the original question about you, and you jump in on any subject you want here, but occupation, reoccupation, full reoccupation of Gaza, what would that change? Would that free the hostages, for instance?
So I was expecting to come in here like guns blazing, but I've been totally disarmed by Bakari, like legitimate to my core. Like I'm so moved by everything that you said, like at a very, very deep level. So thank you for that. I will say, I think in the conversation, I agree with Peter. I don't think this is going to happen. And in a way, I'm very bothered that we're talking about something that's obviously not going to happen instead of the footage that came out of Eviatar David starving and digging his own grave. And it seems to me that that was a ploy on Hamas's behalf to show that they controlled the media narrative, that they could get the media to talk about the horrific hunger conditions in Gaza and then get the media not to talk about this starving young man, this innocent life who's literally being starved day by day because they control the mainstream liberal media. And what they've done is they've made it such, they've cut themselves out of the story. And so people there's a fundamental inability to blame Hamas. People will say, I condemn Hamas, but they never blame them because there's this view that the party with less power has zero moral responsibilities, and thus all the moral responsibility is on Israel. And I think we need to reject that kind of thinking because Hamas is to blame for this. And I say that despite having things that we all agree Israel could have done much better and much differently.
Peter,
Hamas
I'm going to go to Peter and then we'll take a break. Peter, go ahead.
Hamas is 100% responsible for the horrific conditions they're holding Eviatar David in and for the people they killed on October 7th and for everyone they kidnapped. Absolutely. But Hamas is not responsible for the fact that Israel cut off all food, water, and fuel to Gaza for almost 3 months this year. Israel has to take responsibility for its war crimes, just as Hamas has to take responsibility for its.
I don't think they should have done that, but when they did do that, there was a store of 4 to 6 months worth of aid within
evidently not.
Gaza.
Evidently not.
It was poorly handled. I
Evidently
totally
not.
think it was poorly handled, but they believed that there was enough food there. The distribution broke down
I think the
horrifically.
frustration-
Do you think Bezalel Smotrich and Itamar Ben-Gvir, who are both key positions in this government, really cared that much
I don't care
whether there
what
was
they
enough
care.
food?
I don't
They're
think they
important
matter.
people in
They're
this.
not.
They matter a
They're
lot.
not.
I don't think
They
this.
don't matter
I don't
at
think this
all.
government cared very much about whether there was enough food.
All right,
in
Mike,
Gaza.
you're going to have the last word here, then we go to break.
I mean, I just want to echo what a friend of mine who's a war correspondent for another network that I used to work at down the street, we're not going to mention him, Fox News, but he said this on Twitter, and as he's done his reporting, we're losing our humanity. We're legitimately losing our humanity in all this argument. The images that you see of one person that looks exactly like the other person,
Hamas has been in power for so long. If we want
it's too long
peace,
to have a conversation
the irony is
about
I'm
Hamas.
the only person at this table who's actually risked my life to advocate for Palestinian children. I spent 2 years in and out of Jenin, Ramallah, Tulkarm, and Nablus. I'm the one who interviewed Hamas firsthand. I interviewed Islamic Jihad firsthand. I sat with the Al-Aqsa Martyr Brigades, and they told me to my face that they want war. This is not about Hamas. This is about an ideology, and the ideology is
you don't wipe an
radical
ideology
Islam.
out by
And when
branding
you
an
teach
ideology.
children
I mean,
in
we
their
cannot-
schools, in their textbooks, to revere death, to love death, and not to love life,
cannot-
and then
we
you use
cannot-
those
Sorry.
population as
cannot-
human shields. This is what you get:
Okay,
a
Brooke.
terrorist
We
state
cannot-
and a
we cannot-
democracy fighting on an asymmetric battlefield and a completely impossible place. Because how are they supposed to defeat Hamas when there's no food shortages,
They haven't
but there
defeated
is
Hamas. They
starvation?
They've
Because
destroyed
Hamas
Gaza,
is
and they have not
using
defeated
food
All right,
as a
here's what we're going to
weapon
do.
against
Bakari
its own
Sellers, you got
people.
10
No,
seconds, then go on a break.
I don't even need 10 seconds. What I wish is that we did not make this a political football. And what's happened since 2008, since the election of Barack Obama, we've made this Democrat and Republican. This isn't about, how do we have peace here? It's not about the images that we see. It's about who can make Bibi Netanyahu or whatever, and right and left. And this cannot be that if we're going to find a place where we can coexist. I mean, pardon me for being just naive.
Well, not naive. I'm not sure there's much reason for optimism, though. Peter, thank you for being with us tonight. I appreciate it. Next, we're learning tonight that the president's mega bill is going to cost a lot more. So is he making the same mistake as President Biden did? Plus, the DOJ wants everyone to forget Jeffrey Epstein. So they're now asking a grand jury to consider a conspiracy surrounding Barack Obama.